Good morning. Welcome, everyone. Could you please stand for O Canada? Trustee Caputo, could you please give the land acknowledgement?
Welcome to Grand Yellowhead Public School Division, a welcoming place for peoples from around the world. We wish to acknowledge that the land on which we gather this morning is Treaty 6 territory and is a traditional meeting ground, gathering place, traveling route, and home for many Indigenous peoples. We also acknowledge Treaty 8 at Sinewachi, Winawak Nation, and Mountain Métis in the Grand Cache region, where some of our families, schools, and staff are located, and from where they may be joining in today's meeting, located here in Edson.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone to meeting number 14, April 21st. I don't have any announcements this morning, so we'll just move on. Are there any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, we'll accept the agenda. We'll accept the agenda by unanimous consent. Approval of the minutes for January 15th regular board meeting. Trustee Caputo.
Thank you. I need to bring to your attention on, it says school calendar, it says 2026-046. It says approve the attached 2026-2027 school calendar as final. There is no attached, so then I guess you would just remove the word attached. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Could I have someone make the motion to approve the minutes with the correction? Trustee Mines, all in favor? And that is carried. We will move on now to trustee reflections. So if I could have someone volunteer to start. Trustee Bird.
Hi, everybody. My learning is wonderful, but I'm only going to mention one of the highlights in the last little while. I had the great pleasure of attending a workshop virtually that the Public School Board Association of Alberta, PSBAA, offered on how math literacy and comprehension of math terminology shapes mathematical problem solving. Because as we get through number recognition and basic facts in our early childhood grades, it's the ability to problem solve that helps kids get through high school math and ultimately apply it to their everyday life and careers. People say, well, what do I need math for? That problem solving sets you up for making some of the most major decisions you make in your life, buying a house, raising children, et cetera, et cetera. It was presented by a professional math literacy team from Australia, and they talked about learning specific math vocabulary. Sentence parsing in math problems is so important. Now, I know you out there, and I know who's watching today, but you need to know what parsing means. It simply means just the word order. That is the noun verb syncing in the math problem. Then when kids can understand that vocab syntax means word order, they're more able to understand what the math problem is asking. It was further broken into identifying relevant information and ignoring distractions that always happen in math and in everyday life and in everyday problem solving. 50% of math requires reading. And I'll leave this problem with you, and it's rhetorical, so sharpen your pencils. I know that our beloved Kara Aschenmeyer is going to be first on this one. She doesn't even need her pencil. Okay, a train travels 150K before stopping for 20 minutes at a station. Then it covers another 200K in 3 hours. What is the average speed for the entire journey? What do we need to know? Distance and speed. What don't we need to know? Stops for 20 minutes. I'm just going to leave it with you, and you can process the big takeaway from this. This team also talked to a student who has won the International Olympic Math Problem Solving Competition for the entire world. This Olympian talked about his math process. His name is Alex Gunning, and you can Google him. And this is what he said. I'm not necessarily the quickest. I take time to understand things deeply. My teacher gave me the time to process the language and digest the problem's terminology. Investing in time has helped me to grasp problem-solving skills to reflect on language. And I know that our division is doing that, but for you out there, our beautiful audience, these are some of the things that we're doing in math literacy here, and also making thinking visible. So.
Thank you, Trustee Bird. Oh, Trustee Bowman.
Thank you. I just wanted to highlight from each of the schools that we represent in Edson and Fulham. West Haven, they are working on their jump rope for heart right now, and they are now placed 13th in Canada and 6th in Alberta for their fundraising. As of Friday, they have raised $5,130. On Thursday, Superintendent Scobie and I are going to the school to have pies thrown in our face as a part of the wrap up for this event. And, you know, I'm just looking at it as getting a facial that day. But, and last week I did get to take part in their literacy lunch. And then yesterday I was invited to read to the whole school over the intercom, which just warmed my heart. MBE, they've received a grant and have fundraised enough money now to begin their new playground, which is a huge undertaking. I remember it from my Evergreen days, and kudos to them. And they are also getting ready for their celebration of learning on May 7th, which they're creatively calling the night at the museum. And the students are going to showcase for their parents all that they've learned, as well as special projects. So it sounds like an exciting night. PGMS, they have their QMO, their Quebec, Montreal, Ottawa trip going on right now. And from the pictures that I'm seeing, they're having an amazing time. So it's awesome. And it was also heartwarming to see that their leadership option went to the lodge to play card games with the seniors there, and looked like they were having a great time. Parkland, next week I am going to be tattooed at Parkland, which will be very new to me. I don't have any tattoos, so I'm kind of nervous and excited. And then at the last PAC meeting, it was really interesting to hear about a course that was offered about tourism at the school, and the students were taken to Jasper, where they spent a couple of days, and they actually went to different businesses. So they got to learn about restaurants, they got to learn about the ski hill, they got to learn about hotels, all these different things that had to do with tourism. And they were very, very excited about all the things that they learned. So maybe we'll have some people going off into the tourism sector. And Fulham, they are doing pottery classes right now after school on Mondays. And the projects that they did yesterday looked really creative. And the students have been incubating eggs, and the chicks have hatched, and oh, are they cute. So those are our schools.
Thank you, Trustee Bowman. Trustee Mines.
I attended the Grand Yellowhead Indigenous Camp, and it was wonderful. Two of my former students, Lauren Moberly and Mark Dwar, presented there. And they talked about the eviction of Indigenous people from Jasper National Park. Promises were made and passed down orally through history. Mark did extensive research on script for his honors thesis at University of Alberta. He presented to us specifically on Ewan Moberly and Adam Jochum. It was really, really cool to see. Both were former students of ours, of mine, I guess not all of you guys, but Ingrid Cash, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you, Trustee Mines. Trustee Caputo.
Thank you. Well, Crescent Valley School had a talent show. And let me tell you, those students, they went up there and they got such great support from their classmates and the clapping and the cheering them on. And it was really, really good to see. I just need to bring to your attention that this week, April the 19th to the 25th, this is National Volunteer Week. And the Hinton Food Bank, what we did is we had an appreciation night. And what we are now doing is we are now acknowledging our youth volunteers that volunteer at the food bank. And it was so good to see that these students, they go to our schools and you know what, they're going to be volunteering more. And it's so good to be seeing these students volunteering and giving to their community. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Caputo. Anyone else want to share? Okay. Thank you, everyone. I shared at our last board meeting last week. So we'll move on then to our administrative reports. Our request for information, purchasing light duty buses for Fulham School. The recommendation is that the Board of Trustees receive a report regarding the costs to purchase and run light duty buses for Fulham School as information. If I could just have a correction to the background, it was at the March 6th, 2026 special board meeting. Thank you. And over to you, Superintendent Scobie.
Thank you, Board Chair. And we have another correction under the key issues and analysis. There's just a little typo that we will also fix up in there. I'll turn this over to Secretary Treasurer Tash Taylor to give the report.
Thank you, Superintendent, trustees. Just to clarify, under key issues and analysis, the correction there in the sentence, for these reasons, the division has not gone away. It should say, for these reasons, the division has gone away from incorporating small buses. So just want to make that clear for all involved. This was in response to a request for information, some background and analysis on where we came from when it comes to the light duty buses and the feasibility of incorporating them in some of our more remote routes. And I will leave that there. And with any questions, I have our Director of Transportation, Christine Van Neck, who is the expert in this information, if you have any questions.
Any questions, trustees? I think it was quite a comprehensive report with a lot of the information that has been provided as to why the smaller buses aren't a consideration. But I don't have any questions. Nobody else? Okay. Oh, Trustee Mines.
Would just like to say thank you for doing the comprehensive report. From reading the report, it makes strong recommendations that we don't move to smaller buses from what I gather. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And thank you very much for putting that together, Director Van Neck. So we'll move on to 6.2.1 action item, purchase of school buses in partnership with Evergreen Catholic Separate School Division. The recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approve option 1, purchasing 5 new school buses to enable a new busing partnership with Evergreen Catholic Separate School Division. And number 2, that up to $940,000 of transportation capital reserves be used to purchase the buses. Could I have someone make that recommendation? Or sorry, the motion, yes. Trustee Robinson. Over to you, Superintendent Scobie.
Thank you, Chair. One of the things I think before we get to the actual report is as a board and as a first team, we've talked about our relationships, not only in the division, but with those that we work surrounding our division. And Evergreen Catholic is definitely one of our partnerships we're looking forward to. And our work so far as a senior team has been very, very positive with Evergreen Catholic. So we're excited to be able to work with our groups around us. And so this is one example where this positive relationship we're hoping will continue. So I'll turn it over to Secretary Treasurer Tash Taylor.
Thank you, Superintendent, trustees. What you have before you is an opportunity to partner or provide service to Evergreen Catholic Separate School Division in Hinton. Currently, they contract their bus service for their students. And in the fall, in the new school year, that contractor will no longer be able to provide service. And so they reached out to us to see how we could, how we could help them in their situation. And so with that, Grand Yellowhead Public School Division is a natural partner for them. We also are fortunate to have a strong transportation system in place where other school divisions, schools look at us and we provide different levels of service. This would be something a little bit different. And there are 3 options, but honestly, there's only one option that this partnership would work. And so now, of course, that's up to you to decide, and that's why we're recommending option 1. And so I'll speak about what this is. And I mean, there's a lot of detail in the report for the public, for your reading, as you probably have done. But essentially, they don't have the capital reserves to purchase the number of buses needed to support their students, which is why they had contracted out to the private contractor. We are in a position that for this to work, we would need to add 5 routes because that's currently what they have. There are over 300 students that they serve. But because of that, we would need to add 5 routes, hence 5 more buses, 5 new buses to our fleet. So how do we make that happen? We don't have 5 buses sitting idle and waiting for some group to need them. So that's why we would need to add to the fleet. We are looking to make this work by purchasing the 5 buses using the transportation capital reserves, which is what that's there to do, is to buy capital equipment, typically school buses. Now, but the way we would pay for those would be through the revenue model from the school division, from Evergreen Catholic. So what we would do is essentially option 1 would be we buy the 5 buses. We own the 5 buses, but what we would do is require or need Evergreen Catholic schools to allow us to claim all the students on our transportation grant. And so that would bring in about $500,000. We checked with Alberta Education as noted in the report. And so that would bring in about $500,000 a year. Now you subtract the cost of a driver, maintenance, 5 drivers, maintenance, fuel, all of those things, we would be looking at probably $125,000 a year that we would replenish our capital reserves with. Okay, so this is sort of a revenue generating or a model that it's mutually beneficial. It provides service to Evergreen Catholic, but it's also a way for us to add in 5 new buses into our fleet through someone else's student grant. Okay, so that's where this is in addition to us using our regular grant funds for our students and putting money aside for continued evergreening, or I should say replacement. I don't want to get confused on which evergreen, the evergreening program. And so the option 1 is where we would buy 5 buses, we would own them, we pay for them out of our reserves, but the revenue generated will refill our reserves. and we can supply service, and we would take care of the entirety of that service agreement. So it would be sort of like we become a service provider to Evergreen Catholic. It's quite clean, and we would then be able to use our 5 new buses across the division where needed. So option 2 is where we would have joint ownership, where maybe they buy some of their buses and we buy some of the buses. This creates a new dynamic and really complicates the arrangement, because we would have to have a different kind of agreement where we would have a service agreement, some kind of revenue sharing. How much would they pay us for, say, maintaining? The expectation, which is not unusual, would be that they use the buses that they own in Hinton. We would have less flexibility. And again, rather than a fee for service option like the first one, this would be some kind of cost sharing, and there would be a number of layers to how we would make that work. And I don't believe that it would actually be beneficial to the division. Okay. And then, of course, option 3 would be to just say, no, we're going to forego this opportunity for various reasons, and carry on. And so there's implications there. The Evergreen Catholic would have to seek another partner, and we would still need to find replacement buses that we would need to use out of our capital reserves anyway. But this is a way where we could, so that's, I guess, option 3 is we don't have to do anything. There are some implications. The biggest one, I would say, is using capital reserves, the transportation capital reserves. We have a total of 6.1 million in capital reserves, of which 963,000 are designated to transportation. Purchasing the 5 buses would reduce the transportation reserves to approximately $26,000, but we would be replenishing that through the grant money that we'd receive from transporting the students. However, these reserves are intended for the use of purchasing transportation assets and school buses. So it's not like we would be using that funding or those reserves for something that wasn't intended for. And we wouldn't need ministerial approval on this, because it's capital reserves intended for school buses. And that's been confirmed with the division or the department. I'd be happy to answer any questions. There's quite a bit in the report, but anything specific, I'm prepared to answer.
Okay. Trustees, any questions? Trustee Mines?
So just curious. So we would cover everything. So that means if we get all the funding, we're covering the insurance on the bus. Are we going to need extra mechanics or anything like that, office staff to cover the other people? Because we can't, because that has to be looked into this as well, right?
Thank you. Great question, trustee. Yes. So when we talk about, we would receive approximately 510,000, and we would use 400,000. This would include drivers, extra staffing, the insurance premium. All of those additional costs would be we expect 400,000. Leaving us with the difference of about 120,000 for replenishing capital reserves.
Okay. Trustee Bowman?
Just about the Hinton Catholic Board, how many students are needing to be bused, and how does that look for all the kids that are being bused in Hinton right now? Like, how would that affect their bus rides and so on?
Sure, I could speak to that, but I know Christine Van Neck will speak to it much more detailed than I can. If you can, please.
Absolutely. They had between 300 and 350 students. I can't remember the exact number now, but they bust them on 5 routes, and that fills up about 5 routes. But in our planning, we have all the students kind of divided into all our routes, so that we actually are providing some benefits to our existing granular head students. There'll be a slight reduction in several students' ride times. I mean, across the division, the Hinton buses, they're not on for that long compared to the people that live like 60 kilometers away from their school. but we'd also be able to disperse the loads. We have some buses that are like packed to the brim and they do like kind of a double run, and we'd be able to spread that out to make it more equitable and a little bit easier on our drivers.
Sorry, just on top of that, how many buses then would be in Hinton for doing all the kids?
14 routes.
Trustee Robinson?
I just was curious, are there any implications in terms of Evergreen Catholic using the buses for field trips or other uses besides the regular routes?
Thank you, trustee. We would, again, this is one of the advantages if we have ownership, is we would be able to incorporate those throughout our fleet. If Evergreen Catholic had ownership, then they would decide how those buses are used, which can create complication. Is that what you were asking?
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking in terms of if there was field trips to be organized in their school district, that's kind of up to them. They would perhaps contract the use of these buses for that purpose.
That's right. And we do have school divisions who this would be an over and above. Yeah.
If I may, that's something that we already do with the boards that we partner with, including Evergreen Catholic right now. Like sometimes we do sports trips and things like that for them. So they send in a charter request similar to what our schools do, and then we charge them the fee.
Trustee Bird?
Mine was the same as Herb's, trustee Robinson, but I was just going to ask, do you think that it'll provide more opportunity for after-school activities, having more buses to take kids around? Like, that sounds wonderful.
I'll say yes, but I'll leave that to Christine Van Neck, who knows the additional.
Honestly, I don't know that would provide any extra opportunity for anything after school. We already provide service to childcare at the Guild after school, and we don't actually charge a fee if they're ineligible. It's one thing, like our bus just hops there between schools, but for any other activities, I don't know that that's something that we would be looking at.
Thank you. I guess in addition, would it promote some other activities, do you think? Having licensed buses to take kids places?
I mean, if there were things that the schools wanted to do, we would have potentially more drivers available to do maybe those extra charter trips after their bus runs type of thing.
Essentially, we'd have 5 additional buses in the fleet, and whether they're available or not would depend, but it adds some capacity.
Trustee Caputo?
Thank you, and thank you for your presentation. You spoke about in option 3 about the no purchase, and you in your documentation, you put additionally declining the partnership would limit opportunities for route optimism. No. Across both divisions and may be viewed unfavorable in the context of provincial priorities around collaboration and shared services. And according to the Education Act, under board responsibilities, which is 33.1, we have where it says, and this would be F, it says collaborate with municipalities, other boards, and community-based service agencies in order to effectively address the needs of all students and manage the use of public resources. So the way that I'm looking at this, I know I live in Hinton, and I do see, like where I live, I'll see a Grand Yellowhead bus go, and then I will see a Beaupré bus, where now you'll be seeing, instead of those two names, you'll be seeing still the 2 buses probably, and both under Grand Yellowhead. So thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Mines?
This is just a quick question. I know there's an obvious answer, but I don't know it and I'm curious. So if there was an accident, we have insurance on our bus. Do they must also carry insurance on their students? But I'm just curious, if they're in an accident on our bus, what would happen? Because there's ought to be an easy answer.
Thank you for the question, trustee. It would fall within our insurance However, part of the grant revenue is to offset the premium or the insurance premium and potential deductibles.
Any other questions? I have a couple. We know how hard it is to get bus drivers. So this is 5 more routes. Have we been successful in finding drivers, or are we just recruiting right now?
I'll pass this to Director Van Neck.
Thank you. We have already started recruiting with the hope that this might move forward, and still building our spare driver pool. So we have already hired several more drivers, and we're currently training some. And now if we are able to move forward with this, I think our recruitment strategy will change a little bit, because it's easier to find people with the promise of more of a full-time opportunity in September versus being a spare and hoping that there's some work to do.
Thank you. I have another one. Just right now we have busing agreements with Living Waters and YKCS. It's not that, YCS. So we would have to then drop a busing agreement for Evergreen. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We'd have this drafted through our lawyers. But this is, if we went with option 1, it's a fee for service agreement, much more straightforward than if we had an agreement that involved cost sharing and other shared requirements. But yes.
So then not quite the same as Living Waters and YCS. It would be a little bit different then?
Yes, because we would claim all their students and
Actually, that's what we do.
yeah,
for
okay.
Those other boards. We actually already have an agreement with Evergreen Catholic. We transport their students who live out of town, like Brule and Obed, and we transport their special needs students already.
Okay.
That's been happening for many, many years. but
So it would
it'll
just
be
be an
an
update.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And we would have a term on this just so that we could have a clear recovery plan.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll read the recommendation again. That the Board of Trustees approve option 1, purchasing 5 new school buses to enable a new busing partnership with Evergreen Catholic Separate School Division. That up to $940,000 of transportation capital reserves be used to purchase the buses. All in favor? And that is carried. I just want to make one mention here is we know that provincially our government likes that we have these working agreements. And so I'm very happy that we're able to put this forward and work with Evergreen Catholic. So 6.2.2 action item, temporary increase to personal vehicle mileage reimbursement rate. The recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approve a temporary increase to the mileage reimbursement rate for the work-related travel using a personal automobile to 0.65 per kilometer from April 21st to August 31st, 2026. Could I have someone make that motion? Trustee Acorn? Over to you, Superintendent Scobie.
Thank you, Chair. We'll go back to our Secretary Treasurer, Tash Taylor.
Thank you, Superintendent, Board of Trustees. This is a recommendation as a result of staff feedback. And as you know, we span a large geographic area and staff have been wondering if there's some consideration to adjusting the current rate for mileage. And in consideration of that and the socioeconomic and geopolitical times, and looking at our policies, that it probably is a good idea. And there's a lot of driving that our staff do. And of course, when we talk about mileage, it's not just to cover fuel, it's to cover wear and tear on vehicles and such. So the recommendation is to provide a mid-range, I guess, temporary adjustment to 65 cents per kilometer. Some school divisions, I guess, reimburse at the CRA rate of 73 cents. Our current policy is 57 cents, which will be coming back for another conversation around that. However, temporarily looking to say staff and even trustees, we recognize the conditions we're operating in, and this is something temporary that we're putting forward to the board for consideration.
Trustees, any questions? Trustee Robinson?
I guess the obvious one is why temporary?
It is hoped, thank you, trustee. We're hoping that socioeconomic and geopolitical circumstances settle. And this also allows time for a policy review, whether as part of a broader conversation about the budget for next year. So at least this is sort of a temporary relief measure outside of a broader conversation, policy-wise.
Trustee Bowman?
It was mentioned in here about fleet cars, and I just wondered how many do the division have? I know you have one, but how many does the division have at this time?
I can't recall, but I can say that our technology department has some, and four, and facilities may have 2 or 3 trucks. Oh, and transportation has 1 vehicle.
There's probably even a couple more just in thinking. So, right, facilities for sure. Each of the maintenance men have a vehicle that they would drive. There is one with the director. We know there's one that for sure in transportation, one for senior leadership, which I'm driving right now. One, and then I said 4, which is maybe untrue. There's probably actually either 5 or 6 in technology. Sorry, I was just thinking out Hinton where I park. But I think it's closer to 5.
And yes, thank you. Thank you. And these aren't shared vehicles. They're designated for specific departments. And this is something we may consider in the future, is maybe a shared fleet.
Trustee Mines?
Trustee Bowman kind of stole my question, but I guess to go further down the road, have we investigated leases? Would leases be more, what would be cheaper possibly? I know that a school division that we met at Public School Board, which was Northern Lights, thank you, she remembers everything. But anyhow, they even have trustee lease vehicles. Not that that would work for us, because I don't think it's on the road enough to make it feasible, but just curious about if we were to look at that, if we were actually just leasing them and not buying them, would that be cheaper if we had a couple for inclusion, a couple? But it's just if anybody can look at it, maybe bring it back to us in the fall at some point.
Sure, thank you very much. We can take that for a request for information if you'd like, because this is something as part of the bigger cost benefit analysis. Whether leasing is the option, intuitively, that's not my preferred. Depends if you have cash flow issues, that's often helpful. If you're in a position to purchase an asset, then you own that asset. But this could be part of an information piece. Thank you.
Any other questions? I just have one. Could you explain why it's from April 21st to August 31st and not till June 30th?
Thank you. We were looking at the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, so just follow up. Is there a lot of driving over the summer that people from division office do? Just for clarification.
Thank you, Trustee, Madam Chair. We see obviously July and early days of August quite light. And so the bulk of that would be over the next 2.5 months, end of April, June, July, or May and June, and then towards the end of August when people are returning.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll read the recommendation again. That the Board of Trustees approve a temporary increase to the mileage reimbursement rate for work-related travel using a personal automobile to 0.65 per kilometer from April 21st to August 31st, 2026. All in favor? And that is carried. Action item 6.2.3, budgeting principles for budget 2026-2027. The recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approve the budgeting principles allocation model for the development of the 2026-2027 school year budget. Could I have a trustee make a motion? Trustee Mines, over to you, Superintendent Scobie.
Thank you, Chair. We are going to continue down the road of having our Secretary Treasurer speak as much as humanly possible today, and I'm going to pass it over to her.
Thank you, Madam Chair, trustees. I was curious if we were going in camera for further discussion.
Thank you very much. Could I have someone move or make the motion to move into camera? Trustee Bird at 10:46, and it'll just be Superintendent Scobie and Secretary Treasurer Taylor, please. Bowman at 12:06. Superintendent Scobie, do you want to speak to the budgeting principles for budget 2026, 2027?
Okay, so yes, we've gone through presentations from our Secretary Treasurer, who has brought forth some ideas. The idea here is that the Board of Trustees has direction to give to the operations group, and that's what we've been working our way through. So we will take the direction from the board. We will build it into the budgeting principles that we will use to set up our 26-27 budget year. And it's been a very fruitful conversation and good direction setting, which I think will help us overall from strategic planning all around. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions, trustees? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to read the recommendation again, that the Board of Trustees approve the budgeting principles allocation model for the development of the 2026-2027 school year budget. All in favor? And that is carried. So next meeting dates open to the public, May 20th, 2026, public board meeting at 10 a.m. Closed to the public, May 20th, 2026, committee of the whole at 9 a.m. Is there any notice of motion? Seeing none. Future agenda items? Seeing none. There's no closed session at this time. And I call on a trustee to make a motion to adjourn. Trustee Robinson, all in favor? That is carried at 12:08. Thank you.